All right, so when you're putting the piston rings on, make sure you do them in the sequence that it says. Put the oil scraper ring, the oil ring in the center of the two scraper rings first, and then put the side rails in the order that is right there. See that? And this way you have you don't want any of these openings in line because you'll get a lot of blow by past that. So I got that all set up. I put one of the Circlips in the side for the wrist pin. I'm going to bring it over here, push it back on, and then put the clip on this side. All right, I already put a bunch of oil in there, so just make sure there's plenty of oil in your connecting rod and your wrist pin. Push it all the way back in. I'm going to go grab the other Circlip, put the other Circlip on this side. All right, so when you put any Circlips in, make sure you always put them either up or down. Never put them sideways like a C, because they'll flex and they'll come loose. Make sure it's sitting in the groove. We're good to go. Perfect. All right, so the next step is going to be put a bunch of oil on this right here. Make sure the piston's all oiled up so it slides into the cylinder good. I'm going to take the cylinder, I'm going to clean it up with some WD-40 and a gray scuff pad just to get any kind of residue off of there. New gasket on here, and we'll start throwing it back together. Let me get the cylinder ready. So this is what the cylinder looks like all cleaned up. Super fresh, looks really good. All right, dropping the new OEM gasket in here. Base gasket. I'm going to take some oil and put some oil around the piston where the rings are and inside the cylinder. Alright, so let's get this cylinder back on here. I'm going to have to squeeze all the rings in and just kind of rock it back and forth to get it in. Just don't force anything. Just work it in nice and easy. That's it, it's in. Alright, so let's work it down here. Alright, we get on the guide pins and get it all the way down. There we go. So then we got to put this front cam chain guide in. It just drops in. Make sure that you sit it into this groove right here. Okay, and then it sits into the head right there. Those two knobs, drops right into place. Just like that. Let's get the new cam chain in. Alright, so at this point, new cam chain here, we're just going to drop it in. Alright, and then just hook it on there and just drop it down. We're just going to keep it out of the way. We're going to put the bolts back in there with the guide so it doesn't fall out. Alright, so it's going to be just cam chain retainer here. Alright, so now we got the cam chain in. Now we have to get over to the head gasket and put the head in. We're going to have to guide the chain up through it, so a good time now is to tie a wire to it, a safety wire or something, and so you can feed it through and pull it up. Let me get the head. Alright, so I'm using a new OEM factory gasket. The reason I went with OEM stuff is the cost was like the same as getting aftermarket stuff, so might as well go OEM when you can. It's usually more expensive, but it actually wasn't about the same. Alright, head gasket in place. Alright, so now putting the head back on. It's just a matter of fishing everything through here. I got a wire tied to the cam chain. So we're going to work this back in here. And we'll just tie this around here. Roll it back into place. Now I'm going to get the studs back in for the head. So we'll have the head studs back in. The head bolts. Let's get those all back into place. Washers and bolts in there and get those torqued down. Alright, so these 4 head bolts in here, these are going to be 29 foot-pounds. So I'm going to do an incremental steps. I'm setting it at 18 right now. So I'm going to do all at 18 and then come back. And we're going to do cross-hatch pattern as well. Alright guys, at this point basically we're back to a valve job. So I'm going to go ahead and throw the cam back in here, put the caps back on, the cam chain, keep moving along. Alright, so on the other side I made sure that I'm top dead center. I'm looking at the cam chain here. We're going to make sure that that is all set. Alright, and then we're going to pull it tight and get the cam back into place. And this is when we got to pay attention to the marks on the cam so we get everything back in time. Alright, so you make sure the cam is sitting up in there. We're going to look at the timing marks again. Good there. And you can't be, you'll know you're right on. Like these lines are dead on now. And you'll know if you're off. If you're a tooth off, it's going to be nowhere near it. You know you're right on. You're going to be on. You're on the other side. These lines are here. We're good to go. Let's put the caps back on. Alright, so again, these are going to be just incremental here. Alright, these are all good. So with the cam chain adjuster, you got to wind it in. Alright, so I'm going to screw it in with a screwdriver. Alright, then I'm just going to hold it with a screwdriver. I'm going to drop it back in. Just got to keep pressure on it with the screwdriver. Alright, so you want these tight before you release it. And then if you watch the chain right here, everything's back tight again. Then put this cap back on it so it doesn't leak. Everything looks good. Put the flywheel back on, make sure the key is in the right place. Washer. So in order to hold the flywheel, you're going to need a tool. They do make a special tool for this, but you can use one of these. Just wipe the outside of this clean with some brake cleaner and do the same thing with the rubber strap on the inside, and it will bite onto this just fine. You just get it over there. Make sure you're putting it in the right direction so it holds it this way. And it held 47 foot-pounds, no problem at all. All right, let's keep going. Got a new gasket on here. I'm going to put the cover back on it. All right, guys, so time to start buttoning this thing up. I'm going to go ahead and tighten up the hose clamp. I'm going to put a new oil filter and a new O-ring. These O-rings here, when you use them a couple times, they get worn out. So this is a new one on here and a new filter, OEM Honda both. I'm going to fill it up with oil, put the tank back on it, the exhaust back on it. Let's get this thing knocked out. Putting a new spark plug in it. Honda loves those freaking $20 spark plugs in there. So it cost me $18, like $19 for a spark plug. And we're going to put an hour meter on. All right, so the new filter going in. Got the spring in here. It balances. This cap can only go on one way. It has ports in it, but don't worry about it. It only goes on one way. Make sure you put oil on the O-ring here so it doesn't get snagged up when you're putting it in. Long bolt on the top, short one on the bottom. It's only about 6 to 7 foot-pounds on these. Very little. Just get them snug. I see a lot of these get stripped out. These threads, thankfully, are still good. So as soon as they base out, just give them a little bit. That's it. 7 foot-pounds is very little. You just want to make sure the cap doesn't come off. All right, good to go. Let me grab some oil, and we'll put oil in there. All right, for the engine side, putting oil in there, 690 cc's after you do a filter change. Oh my God, using diesel oil. Woo! Seriously though, I love this stuff. It works awesome. Use it in everything. All right, oil's in, plug is in. Let's get that hour meter on. All right, and that's how I wrapped up the wire for the for a 4-stroke. 2-stroke, you can wrap around the wire if it's a standard coil setup. Just wrap it around the coil wire. But these 4-strokes are a little different. You got to wrap them around there. And let's get this wire routed. And I'm just going to mount it right up here. All right, the way the wire goes into this, it has a clear hole you can see through. So you take the wire, stick it through the one hole. All right, so the wire is coming in the backside. It's looping up, coming back around, and just sticking into the hole there in the second hole next so it doesn't go all the way through. So I'm going to take it and just stick it into place. All right, here we go. All right, let's move on. All right, so with the hour meter on, I'm going to head put the exhaust on, torque these 15 foot-pounds, and then I'm going to do the top engine bracket. You don't want to break the stud off. Some of these things are worth torquing. Alright, so on this top engine mount, these plates are different for different years. On this particular model, which is a 2004, the top ones are at 20, and then the bottom one on this plate that attaches to the engine is 40. Alright guys, I'm going to get the tank back on, the plastic and fuel line hooked up, and then we'll fire it up. It's filled with oil, filled with coolant. Everything's on. Let me get that on. Alright guys, so at this point you just want to do a mental note. Make sure that you have all your coolant in, all your oil in, your filter. Make sure that you're all together, fuel is on. Make sure that everything is ready to go. And we're going to fire it up now. I still have the seat off. I got to put that on. But I'm going to throw the battery on charge for my next ride. So that's why I still have that off. But let's pull the starter, pull the choke, let's get it going. Alright, so we're going to let that old heat cycle. I'll let it cool down again, fire it up again, let it run again. I'm going to check the oil now, top the oil off because it was a brand new filter and everything. Should only need a little bit of oil in there. And then we'll run it some more and then I'll take it ride and see how it does. But as of right now, this top end is done. It runs good. It feels nice and tight. It's good to go, guys. It's really not that hard. Like I said, a couple extra things you got to do because it's a 4-stroke, but it's not that difficult. Make sure you do that timing chain when you do your top ends and you'll be good to go. This, after probably my next ride, I'll throw it on the leak down tester and see how it's doing and see if we improve that 15% leak down. But I want to let those rings cut in and everything, that brand new top end, before we do a leak down. Alright, so guys, hopefully that helps you out. Please hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, guys. If you got any comments, please post them below, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. Until next time, this is Tepcocyclerepair.